With Patel, Gandhi always got his way in granting key positions to Nehru. The Mahatma described himself as Patel's elder brother, but though in a sense a father figure to both Patel and Nehru, his relationship with Nehru was more paternal. Upon his death, Patel would weep that the love he had missed from his own parents he had got from Gandhi and the Mahatma's wife Kasturba. But it was Nehru who, in things like party positions, got more than his share. But why did Patel allow it? Why did he not insist on equity, pursue his own cause more fervently, use his followers to drum up his candidature, unleash his own hounds on his opponents? How is it that a man widely believed to be in complete control of the party cadre of the Congress could not push his own case in the party? There were underlying strains of rivalry, though there was a great deal of affection too between Nehru and Patel. Their relationship, especially in later years, when Patel grew older and was made weaker by the disease, was relatively straightforward. Patel was exasperated by Nehru's naivety and tried to protect India's strategic interests from the first Prime Minister's enthusiastic idealism. Once India became independent, Patel recognized that he was too ill for greater political ambition and was content to let the younger man take the lead. But, as we find, not without a significant conflict between the two, on considerable resentment too, especially in political decision making. Age had also played a factor. Patel was only 6 years younger than Gandhi, while Nehru was more than 20 years younger than Mahatma, a fact that undoubtedly added a different texture to the two relationships. The two more complex, even unexplained bonds is between Patel and Gandhi. The Sardar and the Mahatma's relationship was likely most layered in the India's freedom struggle. Saints are not supposed to need generals, but the Mahatma needed foot soldiers to deliver his mission, not least in the moments when he doubted himself. In such times, Gandhi's emotions could be debilitating. In 1921, weeks before the arrival of Prince of Wales to Indian shores, Gandhi began publicly to question whether he, if at all, Swaraj had not come by 31st December, he would survive. On the day the Prince of Wales landed in India, Gandhi wrote that he had immense longing to lose himself in the eternal and become merely a lump of clay in the potter's divine hands, so that his service may become more certain because of uninterrupted by baser self in himself. Always a stubborn man, his resoluteness sometimes turned harmful. In 1970, after years of excluding all the milk products from a strictly vegetarian diet, Gandhi contracted such severe dysentery that his body broke down entirely. And yet, he wouldn't touch cows or buffalo's milk because he had vowed not to. Finally, as a compromise, goat's milk was accepted. Saints who indulge in such critical self reflection and intense vows need lieutenants who can carry on the task, like protesting the visit of Prince without missing a beat. Patel did it. Gandhi and Patel had one more thing in common: loss of family. The Sardar had lost his father early and perhaps forever sought that affection in Gandhi, which might also explain the absolute nature of his deference to his elder brother, to the older man, to Gandhi. Gandhi had at best a troubled relationship with his eldest son. The Mahatma refused to allow Hiralal to go to study in England as he himself had done, arguing that a British education would be useless in the cause of freedom struggle. Hiralal broke away from the family, turned to alcohol, and fell from civility that he was accused by Gandhi of raping a member of the Gandhi family. Gandhi perhaps saw steadfastness of character in Patel, which he would have liked to see in Hiralal, but affectionate as he was towards Patel, his real weakness was Nehru. But why? There are no easy answers to be found except maybe Nehru's popularity among younger congressmen. But one unmistakably strain seemed to lead that the tricky question of Hinduism and Islam in the Indian freedom movement. Gandhi's own position on religion had been debated endlessly for decades, and this is a debate unlikely to end soon. He was a born Hindu and used Hindu scriptures, especially the Bhagavad Gita, constantly as a source of sustenance. He was also more convinced than anybody else that the future of India had to be in the joint trusteeship of Hindus and Muslims. Even after Jinnah, another England trained barrister had argued for and won Muslim homeland of Pakistan and the subsequent partition in India of Gandhi remained resolute that India had to remain secular state. He committed to protecting the citizens regardless of their faith. No one, not even committed Orthodox Hindus, understood as Gandhi did the power of Hinduism when used in a political movement to galvanize the whole of the country. The Mahatma shaped himself into character that every Indian recognized: the sadhu, the ascetic, the holy man. He called himself a Sanatani Hindu, suggesting that he followed the most ancient principles of faith. He used bhajans in his gatherings and spoke of the vision of Ram Rajya, the perfect society of Lord Ram. In doing that, Gandhi acquired for himself the sanctity that only divinity imparts.